I completely rewrote the entire Stranger Things finale over the last 4 days. And trust me, things are gonna get insane. You can watch this video or just listen to it like an audiobook. Now get ready for the Stranger Things finale we all deserved. So, first of all, what do we need to change right before the finale? Holly gets attacked by a Demogorgon in her own home, and it kills her parents right in front of her. In the show, they survive, but we're not doing that. Miss Wheeler, I'm sorry, but you're dead right then and there. You don't even make it to the hospital. Your husband, Ted, does survive. He's been pretty unimportant to the story so far, but we're gonna use him. He's in a coma now in the Hawkins hospital and doesn't even know his wife's dead and his daughter has just been kidnapped. We also keep the fact that Jonathan plans on proposing to Nancy and keeps the engagement ring in his CD case. Our heroes also don't get to save the children in the end, just like in the show. Vecna takes them to his own mind, where they are now trapped with him at the dinner table in the Creel house. And Eleven also finds her sister Callie, who basically just tells her, "Yeah, sis, you gotta die to end the nightmare." Now what we are gonna change is the military scene where Will discovers his powers. The only thing we'll do different is that we add a scene where Dr. K gets alerted when the Demogorgons attack the military and sends in the flamethrower squad, and they burn down most of the Demogorgons. Then Vecna obviously comes in, kills them all, and Will discovers his powers because of him. Now we're gonna add a scene that doesn't exist in the show at all. We're now back in the Creel house where Henry is sitting with the kids. He has told them that Max is the monster and what his plan is gonna be, and that he needs their help. Then he tells them to go play. He walks out of the room with a slight grin on his face. And then we transition back to him as Vecna, standing inside the Mind Flayer base. He steps out and sees the big Mind Flayer in smoke form on the horizon. A part of the smoke flies to the ground and forms into a smoke form of a person the same size as Henry. The Mind Flayer says,
"William Byers is alive. He finally found his powers."
Vecna says,
"We just needed to raise the stakes. Now we can focus on Maxine."
This scene is critical because we want the viewers to know that the Mind Flayer is a sentient being and not controlled by Henry. Okay, time to change another scene. We're now right back in the hospital with Lucas, Robin and her girlfriend, and they're running from the Demodogs. So now they're in the washing room and the Demodogs are looking for them. They're hiding behind a washer and Lucas, stupid idiot, is playing Kate Bush on his speaker. And he doesn't want to put it out because Max might wake up. But we're gonna keep it this way. The Demodogs don't find them and they get distracted by the explosive in the washing machine that actually ends up killing them. Only this time, we see Ted Wheeler come into the room. He put the explosive there to revenge his wife's death. We will actually use this moment and make it a good thing. Now, Max and Holly find Max's way out, and in our version, Max also gives her this stupidly long pep talk that's more comical than anything, but then still gets out because Vecna still doesn't get to stop them even though they lost so much time. We'll explain it later. And obviously Max wakes up from her coma and is with Lucas again. Now, Holly, she finds her escape portal and wakes up in the abyss. And yes, she does escape from the Mind Flayer base and Vecna chases after her and she falls through the upside down, just like in the show. And Nancy watches her scream and fall. In the show, Vecna pulls her up, but in our version, she actually hits the roof of the lab and dies. The still gooey roof swallows her body before Nancy can even touch it. She breaks down in tears. Jonathan and Steve pull her away and say they gotta go and leave. We then see the camera go under the roof and show Holly's body. It vanishes all of a sudden. And then we see Vecna holding Holly in the upside down with his eyes closed. He tricked them with an illusion. He used the situation. As soon as Holly was with Max, he knew they were both gonna escape and that Holly wouldn't get far. Because he knows she would wake up right next to him in the abyss. He did actually catch her mid-air while she was falling, but he let everybody believe that she is dead. It will buy him more time and scar Nancy. Now, Will's coming out scene. Woo! We gotta kinda leave it in because it's important for the Duffer Brothers story, so don't blame me. He confesses to everyone, but the scene isn't that long and everybody's just kinda like, Will, we've known that you're gay for like years, so don't worry. They hug him and then they move on. Now they devise their plan to kill Vecna, and obviously Max listens to everything that's going on. Now we have the scene where they break into the military base to drive their truck into the upside down portal. They drive through the base while Hopper and Nancy are shooting out of the truck. Hopper in the back and Nancy on top. In the show, she hits all her headshots, which is comedically funny because she never had any training, but kills all the soldiers who had actual combat training and proper experience. Yeah, we changed that. She misses most shots and struggles a lot up there, but Hopper hits most of the shots since he had training and also experience, so they make it into the portal, but the soldiers hit Steve in the leg with a bullet, which is why he falls out. The military guys swarm him with shields so that everyone in the truck knows they can't get him. So they keep driving and hoping that Steve is gonna be alright. Now at the Radio Shack, Max is alone with Robin's girlfriend and Max's wounds start to open up. She starts bleeding and Robin's girlfriend has to leave her alone in the Radio Shack to go back to the hospital to be able to get supplies to treat Max. But once she leaves, Max starts feeling Vecna. All of a sudden, she's trapped in his mind again. He starts speaking and reveals to Max,
Maxime, you think you escaped me. I really have to thank you for being my spy.
She starts to sweat. Vecna continues to talk.
You missed your chance once before to escape my mind. Every second counted, Maxime. You think I wouldn't have caught you during all the time you spent giving your little friend a pep talk? I let you go. Because now, thanks to you, I know your little plan.
Now we're back to Robin's girlfriend. She's now in the hospital and there she runs into the doctor that is treating Ted Wheeler. She asks if he's alright. The doctor says, "We don't know. He still hasn't woken up since he got here. He's lucky his room was locked when the military got attacked." She looks confused and asks,
"Wait, so he couldn't have gotten out?"
The doctor says, "Well, no, but also nobody could have gotten in. And by the way, in the state he's in, he couldn't walk to that door anyways. His bones are broken." She starts to realize Ted never saved them. It was just an illusion. Now we're back at Max. She starts to levitate. Vecna says,
Everything you saw and heard since you were awake, I heard.
Her bones begin to snap.
You should have seen your friends in the washing room. I had to save them too because they can't even hide properly.
Now we see the footage of Vecna meditating during the washing room scene. The demo dogs in the washing room, the explosion, and even Ted Wheeler were all illusions made by Vecna, because he wanted her to wake up. And everyone had to be so distracted by the chaos to not even realize that Vecna was the one to let her wake up and use her as a spy. He says,
Thank you for your help, Maxine.
Her bones crack, he snaps her neck and she instantly dies in the shack. Completely alone. The camera zooms out slowly. From now on, this is an audiobook, but trust me, the story only gets better from here on. So put this video in the background, listen and imagine. We switch back to Vecna, who's standing up from his meditation. He's still in the Mind Flayer's head, and the Mind Flayer, in the smoke form, is standing right behind him. Vecna says,
Max is dead.
And the Mind Flayer answers,
Perfect. But it is a shame that Harrington fell out of the van. Now we can't watch him.
He won't be a problem. Let's move on with our plan.
The camera zooms out and we see the abyss in a wide shot. There are swarms of demobats in the air, and on the ground there are hordes of demogorgons and dogs all walking around. And some of them going into the Mind Flayer base, and the bats flying into it from the top. And we can see that the base is growing bit by bit as it's absorbing the demos. So that was season 5 and now we're at the finale. And this is the longest part of the whole video. I completely changed most of it. In the first scene, Dr. K talks to Steve. He explains to her why they shouldn't try to stop the gang from being in the Upside Down. He tells them about Vecna and why they need to kill him. She listens in silence, but then argues with him. Steve keeps trying to convince her that they have a bigger problem on their hands than capturing 11. If Vecna's plan works, they're all dead. Now we switch to 11, who gets into the water tank in the Upside Down, just like in the show, and walks in Henry's memories with Max and Callie. Mike, Will, Dustin, Nancy, Lucas, Robin and Joyce get into the abyss through an opening above the Hawkins lab, not on the radio tower. It's important for our story that it's actually easier accessible. Once they are in the abyss, we see that there are demogorgons, dogs and bats all over the place. They look at this huge army and don't know what to do. But then they get spotted by a demo dog. Dustin tries to calm it down because he remembers that it worked for Dart, but the dog attacks and Vecna is alerted through the hive mind. We see a shot of him turning around and looking at where the group currently is. He sends a big flock of Demobats and Demogorgons their way. The group is not stupid, so they brought hairspray and lighters so that they can burn some of the monsters, but they know they don't have a chance against that army. They manage to take out the demo dog with the fire spray, but then when the army gets closer, they get together and get ready for a fight they can't possibly win. But all of a sudden, we switch back to Vecna, who gets distracted because he feels that 11 is in his mind, taking the kids now. He pulls back from watching the fight between Mike and the others and goes into the Mind Flayer base to switch back into his memories. We then see the scene where Henry tries to kill 11 in front of the kids because he thinks they're gone, but they actually see that he is the monster because Callie tricked him. And we also keep the scene where Hop is manipulated to break 11 out of the tank because of Vecna, so she can't be in his mind anymore. Now we switch back to Mike and all the others in the abyss. The demos are really close, running towards them. And then all of a sudden, a fire cannon shoots past them and they hear loud metal sounds. It's the military! They have fireproof armor, flamethrowers, and tanks that shoot fireballs. Steve managed to convince them. It is now an epic Lords of the Rings-like battle where a huge army of demos fights the military. There are many deaths on both sides, rapid fire and many flames. Bats take up many soldiers from above. The demos rip open the tanks and pull the people out. We have cinematic long shots of soldiers rushing through the fields, trying to get into the tanks to keep the huge weapons going. There are demos and soldiers dying left and right, and it is a huge chaos. And meanwhile, Steve gets to the gang. He can't go fast because his leg still hurts, even though it's been patched up by the military. And he goes to them and hands them armor and better flamethrower gear. Now we go back to Vecna, who's inside the Mind Flayer base. He taps back into reality and sees the whole fight outside. He has a grim expression on his face. The Mind Flayer figure appears next to him and says,
"So Harrington turned out to be a problem after all."
Vecna responds,
It doesn't matter. They will lose.
"It's time for me to end this fight."
Not yet. Let's wait till you're stronger.
We switch back to 11. She's out of the tank now, so she runs through the Upside Down trying to get to the abyss. She finds the Hawkins lab, but sees the huge trail of military going in, so she chooses to get into the abyss by going on top of the Hawkins school. She gets in and sees the huge fight. Since she got in at a different spot, she's now behind the Mind Flayer base, and she can sneak into it and find Vecna there. He sees her and they start to fight with their powers. She can hold him off for a few seconds and do some stunts to escape his powers, but he gets her. He has her floating in the air and throws her around inside the Mind Flayer. He chokes her with his powers and holds her up to the ceiling.
Your power is pathetic compared to mine,
he says. And he throws her out of the base and she crashes against a huge rock outside. When she sees Vecna walking towards her, she uses her powers to rip out one of the giant finger-like bones of the Mind Flayer base and throws it at Vecna. He dodges it and stretches out his hand. He chokes her and holds up his other hand, ready to impale her with it. But now, everything in the abyss starts to shake. The Mind Flayer is waking up its physical body. Vecna looks at it with a grim face and whispers to himself,
That's too early.
Because all the demos should have morphed into the Mind Flayer's body to make it as big as possible before it reveals itself. But it's still almost as huge as in the show. Everybody is shocked by this massive beast. While the Mind Flayer is standing up, Vecna tries to impale 11, but since they are standing on the Mind Flayer, he falls over and 11 is free. She also falls down this beast, and Vecna is caught midair from 4 Demobats he summoned, and they hold him in the air. He's looking for 11 but can't see her, so he vanishes in the Mind Flayer base again, and he closes his eyes. Now we're back in Vecna's mind where he is Henry. And we see the stress on his face as he walks around his house and then goes outside to search for the children. He runs through the forest with a murder stare towards the cave, just like in the show. And he struggles before he gets in because he knows what awaits him. But he also knows what's on the line, so he forces himself through it. He has many bad flashbacks and pain, but he makes it through. The kids have to flee, and they walk into the hole in the ground where we see Henry's whole backstory, where he finds the Mind Flayer stone, and now he catches the kids and puts them in a trance-like state. He drags him back to his house. Now we're back in the abyss where the fight is going on. The Mind Flayer, in the form of this gigantic beast, walks around the battlefield, and we see Mike and Will actually find 11 on the side of the battlefield. She has a tear in her eye and she tells them she can't beat Vecna. Mike says, "There's another problem. Eleven responds.
What problem?
So Mike tells her.
You know, we hoped that Will was separated from the hive mind's pain when he got his powers, just like when he broke Vecna's leg and didn't feel any pain. But he wasn't separated. Whatever you did to it, Will was breaking down on the floor, screaming, feeling every bit of pain.
So now they all know that if Vecna and the Mind Flayer die, Will is gonna die with them. Now back to the battle. 4 military helicopters made it through the opening into the abyss. Dustin and Steve managed to sneak onto one of them, but as soon as the soldiers in it notice that they are there, they drop him off on top of one of the mountains next to the Mind Flayer. Once they're out, the helicopter flies off again, and just a few seconds later the Mind Flayer catches it mid-air with its mouth and bites it in half, killing everybody inside. So Dustin and Steve start throwing some of the explosives and flame grenades onto the Mind Flayer. It doesn't hurt the Mind Flayer, but since they're throwing right at the head, Vecna can't stand still and can't concentrate. So Vecna leaves his own mind again and looks at them. He walks back into the head of the Mind Flayer and opens a part of its skin. He rips it open and says,
It's time. Go kill them.
The camera slowly pans to what he just freed from the Mind Flayer's skin. It's Eddie. He's in a vampire's body. He looks pale and blue in the face. He looks at Vecna and nods at him. Then he jumps out of the Mind Flayer and lands on top of the mountain right in front of Steve and Dustin. They stare at him for a second. They can't believe it. Dustin has a tear in his eye and asks, Eddie? But then before anyone can react, Eddie sprints towards Dustin, aiming for his neck with his sword. Then Steve jumps in front of him, dodging the sword with his shield and screams, That's not Eddie! Then behind the shield we hear Eddie say in his normal, calm voice, It's me, Henderson. Steve lowers his shield a bit, and we see Vampire Eddie's pale and blue face again. He mimicked Eddie's voice. Steve pushes him back with his shield. Eddie falls over and we can't see his face for a second, while he says again in his calm voice, I'm not gonna run this time, Henderson. Then he turns around and we see his face again, while he launches at Steve, hitting his shield with his sword. They keep on fighting and Dustin is standing there shocked with tears in his eyes. He doesn't know what to do. Now we're back in the middle of the battlefield with Robin, Joyce, Jonathan and Lucas, and they're using their flamethrowers against Vecna's army. There's a huge fight and you can imagine it like the worst battlefield ever in a sci-fi type setting. And then all of a sudden a whole flock of demobats flies towards them and it picks up Joyce and flies away towards the Mind Flayer's head. Then the same happens to Will. They pick him up and fly away. 11 is shocked and gets back up. The camera follows Will and Joyce into the Mind Flayer's head and the bats drop him right there in front of Vecna. He looks at them and says,
Hello, Joyce and William. I have been awaiting you.
Now we're back to the military. Dr. K is there with all of them and her generals tell her that they don't have a chance. The Demogorgons are too many and too powerful. Each one of them takes out like 5 soldiers even though they're using their flamethrowers. The demos don't care if they die in the process because the hive mind tells them to go full in and sacrifice themselves to kill all the soldiers. Now the camera follows Murray and Hopper in the Upside Down. They're setting up the explosives on top of the Hawkins school and they finish it while having a talk about how Hopper is scared that 11 might sacrifice herself in the Upside Down. Now we're back at Dustin and Steve's fight with Eddie. They keep on fighting and Eddie swings his sword at Steve's neck, but Dustin finally steps in and blocks it with his spear. Now they both fight Eddie in an epic showdown on the mountain while Dustin keeps telling him, Eddie, stop this! You're stronger than him! Don't let him control you! But then Eddie jumps at Steve, impales his shoulder, grabs him by the neck and throws him to the side. Now it's just between Dustin and Eddie. The camera pans away from them and flies through the abyss, away from them and into the Mind Flayer's head, where we're back with Vecna, who's still standing in front of Joyce and Will. Vecna launches his hands towards Joyce's and Will's heads, and they're suddenly in his mind, in the Creel house, sitting at the dinner table. They look around and they're really confused. Then they immediately look to their side once they see that Henry is sitting next to them and he starts speaking. He says, Welcome to my home, Joyce and William. Joyce grabs a wine bottle and smashes it against the table like Mrs. Wheeler. And she holds it up while saying,
You better let us out of here right now!
Henry answers in a calm voice, There's no need for this here. Joyce looks back up and the wine bottle in her hand is gone. He continues, Sit down, Joyce. You're now in my mind. And I decide what's happening here. Will says, Sit down, Mom. He's right. We can't fight him here. Joyce sits down with a grim face and Henry continues. I never needed you to spy for me or dig my tunnels, William.
There are many kids in Hawkins who would have been weak or alone enough. That's not why I picked you. I picked you because of your mother. Joyce stares at him completely confused, and he continues. How do you like your school, William? Isn't it great that your mom went to the same school? She was very popular. That's because she was nice to everybody in a school where everyone else wasn't. His face gets darker for a second, but it returns to his normal look again. All of a sudden, in front of them appears a cloud filled with memories that they can see of the school and Joyce as a teen, and Henry says that popularity even allowed her to create her own theater play. Joyce looks even more confused. She doesn't understand how he knows this. He continues, I was a part of that play. I was younger than everybody else, and that's why everybody always made fun of me. Especially your beloved police officer Jim Hopper and his friends. Joyce stares at him. She realizes that the little Henry in her play is Vecna. And Henry keeps speaking. They would use every opportunity to laugh at a younger kid who could do nothing to defend himself. He needed somebody else to defend him, but nobody else helped him, except for one person. And that was your mother, William. They see the whole flashback in front of them. Joyce defended Henry. Once she showed up, Hopper and his friends backed off immediately because he had already had a crush on her. Henry continues, Joyce, I will end the military and every being on the planet. You know that I can't be stopped. And then I will recreate the human race and all animals from scratch, but not as weak as they are. I will give them powers just like William. I finally know that it worked many years ago. I just had to push him more so that he finds them. Will is shocked and Henry keeps talking. I can still kill William or you just like all the others, but I don't want to. If you join me, I will let you stay alive. And I will share my powers with you. I haven't been a human since I was a child, so I want the only person I know who has the good qualities of the human race to recreate them, just better. All this while I recreate all the other beings that will walk the earth. I will even let your entire family and friends and even your boyfriend Jim Hopper live. I won't even kill Eleven. I'll just take her powers. It's either this or everyone you know and you yourself will die. Now the camera is back at the military with Lucas, Robin and Nancy. The fight is still going on, but Dr. K realizes she can't win. So they call everyone back to retreat and start ripping a hole in the ground with explosives so that the Demogorgons and the massive Mind Flayer can't reach them for some time. They can easily fight off the Demo Bats if they're alone. Now we're back at Henry's mansion with Joyce and Will still being completely silent. They don't know what to say and just stare at each other. Will is shaking his head and Joyce looks at him and says,
Prove that you won't hurt any of us.
Henry stares at her for a second. Then he answers, alright, it's time anyways. All of a sudden, Joyce and Will see all the kids sitting next to them at the table. Henry takes them by their hands and their eyes turn white and Joyce and Will and Vecna leave his mind. They are now standing in front of Vecna inside of the Mind Flayer's head again in real life. Vecna looks at them for a second and then looks away and says to the Mind Flayer,
The portal is opening.
The camera zooms out to show the whole battlefield. We see that hole the military blew up get way bigger with an earthquake accompanying it. So now the Mind Flayer can fit through it. The Demobats are flying through the hole and then the Mind Flayer is stepping into it with its feet. The roof of the Upside Down has been raised again so that the Mind Flayer can stand in it. This also means that all the people in the Abyss can't get out anymore. They would fall to their death. So now the Mind Flayer is getting in. He's halfway through when we switch the camera back to Vecna, Joyce and Will. And Vecna says to them,
Don't move.
He then shoots out both his hands and rips open the flash inside the Mind Flayer's mind behind which the kids are trapped all around them. He opens one after another until the kids are all free. Now we see the Mind Flayer from outside and we can see how the gate is closing while the Mind Flayer is right in the middle of it. It is closing because Vecna has severed the connection to the kids, which the Mind Flayer needs to open such a big gate. There's not enough power now. Vecna calls in a flock of Demobats and each one of them takes one kid and flies them out. Then he grabs Will and Joyce with one hand, and with his other hand, he grabs some bats and they all fly out of the Mind Flayer's head. We then see the gate close almost fully and thereby rips the Mind Flayer in half. It dies in the process. While the gate closes, another huge earthquake goes through the Upside Down because of the sheer intensity of the ground moving through the Mind Flayer. It is done.
Vecna killed the Mind Flayer, but he feels intense pain in his chest and screams. "Argh!" All the demos in the dimension let out a huge scream, and a few who have already been hurt die. Will asks why he's also in immense pain.
What is happening?
Vecna says,
I killed it! Now I will be the sole ruler of the new world. Whatever I want to happen will happen. And like I promised, I saved the kids you wanted to save yourself. I don't need them anymore. I could have let them die there, but I kept my word. I won't kill anyone you care about if you join me.
The camera pans to the right and shows the Demobats holding the kids and flying right next to them. Vecna continues.
I'll take you back to Hawkins, where I will keep you and your friends until I have erased everyone else from the planet. Once I return, you have to make your decision.
He waves his hand, and all of a sudden, all the Demogorgons that survived, which are almost all of them, run in the same direction, which is towards the Mind Flayer's body. Vecna uses his hand to reshape a few parts of the Mind Flayer's body so that the demos can use it as a ladder to get into the Upside Down. Once the demos are on the ground, they come running towards Hopper and Murray. They immediately start the explosion timer on the roof, and then they run out and go into the van and drive to the school. Vecna tells Joyce and Will,
You had a pretty good plan. Blowing the Upside Down up with me in it?
they're shocked that he knows about that, and they start staring at each other. Joyce asks,
What makes you think that?
he answers,
Thanks to Max, I know every part of your plan. My army is currently disabling the TNT.
We see the Demogorgons running up the Hawkins lab and cutting the wires, and then the Demobats flying away with the explosives into the abyss. They throw it at the military, which destroys many of the tanks and kills many soldiers. Dr. K gets into one of the helicopters and she takes off, leaving all her men behind that are still in the abyss. 11 sees Vecna flying around the abyss with Joyce, Will and the kids. She realizes he will also go into the Upside Down. 11 uses her powers to grab a Demobat that is flying above her. She grabs Mike with her other hand and they fly down onto the roof of the Hawkins school. She can navigate the bat pretty well, even though she can't control its mind. She just uses her power to force the bat's wings to go in the direction she wants to. While they're flying down, she sees Hopper and Murray waiting in the van at the school. Once they arrive on the roof, she stays there but throws Mike towards the van with her powers. He lands safely because she controls the landing, and now he's out of harm's way. 11 screams towards the van because she hopes that Callie is still inside, that she has to stop Vecna. And luckily, Callie is still there, and she steps out and she creates an illusion. Now Vecna is still flying through the abyss with Joyce and Will right underneath him. You can imagine it like 3 people stacked on top of each other. If Vecna let go of Joyce's hand, she and Will would fall. So he's flying to the same hole in which he killed the Mind Flayer and where he sent all his Demogorgons to go through. It leads to the Hawkins lab in the Upside Down. He can see the gate to the overworld from there. The bats keep flying towards it, but then once they get close, he realizes that his bats are flying against it and they're dropping to the ground dead. And then he gets it. The portal he sees right in front of him is an illusion from Callie. He looks around, but can't find the hole in the Mind Flayer anymore. Callie has also hidden them. So now he knows. He needs to find a different hole. And the only one that is big enough that he can see is the one that 11 went through, right above the Hawkins school. He can't see that the van and 11 are there because Callie is also hiding them. So he flies towards it full speed. He tells his demos to go in the same direction. Obviously, he is way faster and he flies forward. And then once he gets close to the hole, 11 reveals herself. But sadly, Vecna notices her. He turns around and he starts choking her with his powers. He is still powerful enough to do that without even using his hands. But then, Will goes into his mind and Vecna can feel how he's starting to break his hand. If that happens, Vecna will fall because he can't hold on to the Demobat anymore. So he immediately lets go of 11 and looks at Will. Will starts to shake and his eyes turn white while smoke is flying out of his mouth. Vecna is taking his powers and disconnecting him from the hive mind. Vecna knows that he can't fight Will and 11 and hold on to the bat at the same time. Now we switch back to Dustin and Steve. Steve is still laying on the ground and Dustin is fighting the now bleeding Eddie. He has been severely damaged when the Mind Flayer was killed. It's like a part of him was ripped out. He is not that strong anymore. Dustin is crying and just dodging him. He doesn't want to kill Eddie, so he screams, "Eddie, snap out of it! I know you're still in there!" Eddie keeps swinging at him, but then, while he's swinging, he screams in his normal voice, "Kill me, Henderson! Kill me!"
Dustin screams, Eddie, is that you? Eddie launches another sword attack at him, but screams, I'm dead already! End me, please! Then Vampire Eddie's face turns into anger again and he keeps attacking Dustin. Dustin screams, I can't! Then Eddie screams while attacking him, please, Henderson! Do it! Then while Eddie raises his sword to swing it down on him, Dustin pierces his spear through Eddie's heart. We now switch back to Vecna, who is now screaming in pain because Eddie was an important part of the hive mind. Vecna's weakened right now. Then Joyce looks at Vecna with disgust and says,
I would never join you. You mess with the wrong family.
And then she throws her dynamite belt at him. He lets go of her because he knows the TNT won't hurt him, but she'd die, and he can catch her again after the explosion. BAM! The TNT explodes and doesn't hurt Vecna, but it does kill the demo bat carrying him. Vecna, Joyce, and Will are now separately falling through the air. He summons more demo bats to catch them, but 11 blocks them from coming to him. He can't overpower her because he needs half his powers to save Joyce, and 11 can use her full power to block the bats. So he lets go of Joyce because he knows that 11 will then use her full powers to save Joyce instead of blocking his bats off, which is exactly what happens. 11 catches Joyce and Will mid-air and lands them safely right next to the van where Hopper is waiting. In the meantime, Vecna is summoning more bats, but all of a sudden, Jonathan appears on the roof right next to 11. He throws 2 grenades at Vecna. Again, don't hurt him, but kill the demo bats again. And Vecna doesn't have time to summon more, so he falls onto the street right next to the van. Hopper and Murray run to him and throw all their explosives at the area around him. It creates a hole in which Vecna is trapped for a few seconds, and the building right next to him collapses because of the explosion and falls right on top of him. The military flies past them into the portal to the overworld. All of a sudden, Dustin and Steve are lurking through the hole that 11 and Vecna went through and scream down, "Catch us!" They jump down and luckily 11 catches them before they hit the ground. Hopper screams, "We gotta go! Now!" But 11 and Jonathan are still on the rooftop. 11 grabs his hand and says,
You gotta go.
He pulls back and says, no, somebody has to blow up the Upside Down. The explosives are gone. She tries to talk him out of it, but he says, you have to make sure Vecna doesn't escape before everything collapses. Somebody's got to stay here and it can't be you. Please, just give this to Nancy. Tell her I love her. He hands 11 the CD disc with his engagement ring for Nancy in it. 11 realizes he is right. She has to fight off Vecna and somebody has to blow it up. So she gets off the roof, into the van, and they start driving off after she convinces Hopper that they have to go. We see that Vecna is tunneling out of his grave with a furious look on his face. Inside the van, 11 and Hopper tell Joyce that Jonathan decided to stay behind. She's freaking out and they almost can't calm her down. But they manage to at least get her in a state where she isn't screaming her lungs out. And 11 hands her the CD disc with Jonathan's engagement ring in it. She tells her that she has to give it to Nancy from Jonathan. They're still crying and everything is very emotional. Once the van gets out of the portal, just like in the show, the military traps them and wants to take 11 from them. But she's not there. She's at the entrance of the portal with Callie standing next to her. They stayed behind, and 11 is using her powers to at least slow down Vecna. Most demos are dead, but the ones that are still running, Callie is tricking them with her powers, so that they run into things and take wrong routes. Vecna isn't slowing down a lot, but he also can't run right now. He has to walk fast, while 11 is trying to block him. We switch back to Jonathan. He's now alone on the rooftop, and he breathes in slowly. He has flashbacks of his and Nancy's time. And he thinks of Will and his mom during the good times they had together. Then he activates his whole grenade belt. A few seconds later, a huge explosion can be seen over the horizon. He blew himself up. The Upside Down is damaged and starts to explode. The shockwaves are being sent out. Back to Vecna. He raises his hand and starts choking 11, but the military uses their weapons to block their powers. 11 and Callie fall onto their knees and hold their heads because of the pain. Vecna keeps walking slowly. He can resist the military's weapons, but it does slow him down again. He looks furious, and just when he's in range to reach 11 with his powers, the explosion destroys the whole Upside Down and the gate closes. It is the end of 11, Callie, and Vecna. Will felt no pain, because Vecna disconnected him from the hive mind while falling, and the military knows it's over.
Everybody from the main group is crying. The military wants to arrest every one of them, but Murray steps in and says, "You can't arrest us, but if you do that, these particular pictures will come out." Turns out that he and Dimitri, aka the Russian from season 4 who was imprisoned with Harper, had been taking pictures of everything that was going on here for the last few months, and Murray had even been taking pictures inside the Upside Down. Murray adds, "And don't try anything, cause these pictures are just copies of the originals, so they have to let them go." Now, we just have the epilogue, and I would change almost nothing except for, obviously, Jonathan is dead, Max is dead, which affects Lucas, 11 is actually dead with no way out, and Mike is scarred for life. Nancy finds Jonathan's ring and is devastated for many years. And at the end, instead of Mrs. Wheeler telling them that the lasagna is getting cold, it's her husband, Ted. Other than that, the epilogue is pretty much the same, except that I'd add a scene where we see that Murray keeps on spying on the government, which could make a crossover possible in the future sequels. Okay, so here are my final thoughts. I'm very happy with what I put together here. I know it could have probably been even better if it took more than 2 days to write it. Maybe like 10 years like the Duffer Brothers. They could have done so much cool shit if they weren't so lazy at writing the story. But I'm really happy with what I put together here. So thank you and see you in the next one. Bye bye.